Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? This time, we're taking aim at a true gaming legend, Space Invaders.
Ah, Space Invaders. It's more than just a game, wouldn't you say? It's a cultural icon.
Absolutely. But we're going beyond the iconography. We're going deep, uncovering the story behind those blocky aliens and those oh-so-familiar sounds.
Well, I'm excited to dig in.
Me too. And to guide our journey, we've got a fantastic array of sources. A German article marking the game's 30th anniversary, a retro review from gamerhub.co.uk, the game's Wikipedia page, a GameSpot review of a re-release from 2000.
And let's not forget that insightful Den of Geek piece reflecting on the game's 40th anniversary. Quite the timeline we're covering.
It is. So we'll be weaving together these different perspectives to see how Space Invaders went from a technological marvel to, well, a global phenomenon.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, let's fire up our time machines and set the coordinates for 1970s Japan. Picture this. Tomohiro Nishikado, our main character in this pixelated adventure. He's an audio engineer at Taito, a company known for its arcade games.
But here's the twist. Before video games, Nishikado actually designed a mechanical arcade game.
Mechanical game. Now that's intriguing. What was it like?
Imagine sitting at an arcade cabinet, and through clever use of mirrors and models, it creates the illusion of shooting down a plane in the 3D sky. It was called Skyfighter 2, and it showcased Nishikado's knack for blending technology and, well, a touch of magic.
Wow. That's seriously impressive for the time. So was this his direct path to Space Invaders?
Not quite. Then came Pong, sweeping through Japan like a storm. Now, Taito had mixed feelings about its simplicity, but Nishikado, he was fascinated.
He saw something special in Pong.
I did. Nishikado spent months taking Pong apart, studying its hardware, trying to grasp its essence, and instead of just copying it, he used his knowledge to create his first video game.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What was this groundbreaking creation?
Soccer.
Soccer. Wow, so he was already experimenting with aiming and shooting before Space Invaders.
Exactly. But hold on, because the real inspiration struck when he played Breakout, breaking down a wall of bricks with a bouncing ball. And then it hit him. What if those bricks were the enemy, moving and firing back at you?
Hold on, so that's the aha moment, the birth of Space Invaders.
You got it. Nishikado dove in, spending about a year developing the game entirely solo. He built the hardware from scratch, hand-coded the graphics, the sound, the AI, talk about dedication.
That's a one-man show if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
But from our sources, we know that even Taito's bosses and arcade owners weren't initially convinced. They thought it was too tough. So what changed their minds?
Well, in 1978, Space Invaders hit the arcades. And it wasn't just a hit, it was a sensation. People lined up, feeding coin after coin into those machines. A phenomenon no one, not even Nishikado himself, saw coming.
Okay, we've got the backstory. The right person, the right inspiration, and a bit of initial doubt. But what was it about Space Invaders itself that hooked people? Was it just the novelty of shooting at descending aliens?
It went deeper than that. Space Invaders had a depth players hadn't really experienced before. You couldn't just fire randomly. You had to think strategically, understand the game's mechanics, even exploit them to your advantage.
I love those aha moments in games, unlocking a new level of strategy. So tell me, what kind of strategies are we talking about here?
Well, there's the UFO that awarded bonus points. Players figured out its appearance wasn't totally random. It actually appeared based on the number of shots fired. Predictable. And then there's that famous bottom row glitch. Nishikado himself has admitted it was unintentional.
A glitch. Okay, this I have to hear.
Picture this. You're down to the last row of invaders. If they happen to be directly above your cannon, they wouldn't fire.
So a bug that actually added to the strategy. That's wild.
It is. Those hidden layers, the tension of those descending aliens, it was captivating.
You can practically feel that tension. No wonder people were obsessed.
And that obsession is where we see the game's global impact starting to take shape.
Okay, I'm ready to hear about Space Invaders taking over the world. How did this Japanese phenomenon go global?
Think about it. Before Space Invaders, arcades were mostly racing games, pinball, sports simulations. Space Invaders was different. It was skill, strategy, survival, like a primal urge to defend yourself.
Against those relentless digital invaders, it's almost an epic tale, just in pixel form.
Exactly. And that resonated across cultures. In Japan, it got so big that arcades dedicated just to Space Invaders started popping up, rows and rows of people all battling those descending aliens.
Wow, that's a sight I'd love to see. Our sources mentioned Space Invaders didn't just hook players, it impacted the gaming industry itself.
How so?
Like a jolt of energy. Before, games were novelties, but Space Invaders showed they could be challenging, addictive, even tell stories without words.
So not just an iconic game, but a spark that ignited a golden age of gaming.
Precisely. It pushed developers to innovate. Monochrome to full color, more complex gameplay, the rise of shoot-'em-ups. Space Invaders was the catalyst. It's amazing how one game had such a ripple effect. But it goes even beyond the world of gaming, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Think about Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, Donkey Kong. He's said Space Invaders revolutionized things, inspired him to make games.
Hold on, no Space Invaders. Maybe no Mario. That's a wild thought.
It is. One creation changing the course of history. And those pixelated aliens, they're the universal symbol for video games now, aren't they?
You see them everywhere. T-shirts, movies, even street art. Simple, but iconic.
They're more than just the game. They represent the whole concept of video games. Fun fact, there's even a Brazilian spider named after Space Invaders.
Wait, seriously, a spider?
True. Tato Space Invaders. Scientists thought a marking on it looked like the aliens. Talk about leaving a mark on the world.
Incredible. Speaking of leaving a mark, how's the game itself evolved over the years? We've got that GameSpot review of a 2000 re-release.
That review's telling. They found it wasn't challenging enough.
Isn't that ironic? The original, some said it was too hard. Now a re-release is too easy.
Shows how gaming's changed. Our expectations, our skills, even the tech. What was cutting edge back then is almost quaint now.
Like trying to explain dial-up internet these days.
Yeah.
But even with all that, the essence of Space Invaders still holds up, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That strategic positioning, the anticipation, the pressure.
Yeah.
Timeless. Strip away the fancy graphics. You've still got a game that's engaging, rewarding. Even today, you see echoes of Space Invaders in modern games.
It's like the DNA of so many shooters, even other genres. It's almost poetic.
It is. And I think that leads us to Space Invaders' true legacy, something beyond popularity, cultural impact, even design influence.
Okay, let's talk about that legacy. What makes Space Invaders resonate, even after all these years?
I think it's the simplicity. Learnable in minutes, masterable over a lifetime. It challenges you strategically, tests your anticipation, makes you perform under pressure. A reminder that simple ideas done well can have a huge impact.
You're so right. It's about innovation, creativity. And it makes you wonder, what game today could be the next Space Invaders? What's pushing boundaries, captivating players, shaping the future?
That's the question. It could be that mobile game we're all hooked on, or a small indie game doing something new, or even VR changing how we play.
The future of gaming is wide open. What will the next Space Invaders be?
Who knows? But one thing's for sure. Space Invaders' impact is going to keep rippling for generations. It shows games can be more than just fun. They can be cultural touchstones, technological leaps, even inspiration for science.
We've gone from those Japanese arcades to the whole gaming universe, exploring Space Invaders' origins, impact, and its lasting legacy.
Quite a journey. I hope our listeners have a newfound appreciation for this iconic game.
It's mind-blowing how a game with simple graphics and those repetitive sounds could spark a whole industry, become a global phenomenon, and stick with us like it has.
Space Invaders shows the power of creativity, innovation, and how a truly captivating game can endure.
And on that note, we're powering down our lasers for this deep dive. But before we go, a final thought. What game from today do you think has that Space Invaders potential? Well, it's pushing boundaries, captivating players, shaping the future.
Something to ponder as we explore this ever-changing world of games.
Thanks for joining us on this epic adventure through gaming history.
It's been a blast exploring the universe of Space Invaders with you. Until next time, game on.
So we've gotten from those Japanese arcades to the whole gaming universe, exploring Space Invaders' origins, impact, and, well, its lasting legacy.
Quite a journey. We've seen how one game could spark a whole industry, become a cultural icon, even inspire scientific discovery.
It's mind-blowing. What stands out to you as the most significant part of Space Invaders' legacy?
You know, for me, it's that enduring power of simplicity. It's an older game, sure, but the core gameplay, still compelling. Even today, you see those echoes of Space Invaders in modern games, even with all those complex stories and incredible visuals.
I think you're right. There's something so primal about that struggle to survive, battling those relentless enemies. And you know what's interesting? We have this German article celebrating the game's 30th anniversary.
Ah, yes. That one gives us a great perspective from outside Japan. It talks about how Space Invaders wasn't just a game over there, it was a cultural event. It really helps solidify video games as, well, a legitimate form of entertainment.
Exactly. And remember that gamerhub.co.uk, retro review. Even decades later, it still holds up as a fun, challenging game. Tight controls, strategic depth, and that nostalgia factor for those who grew up with it.
Proof of its timeless design, that strategic positioning, the anticipation, the pressure. It works across generations. Anyone can pick it up and enjoy it, no matter their gaming background.
It's like the foundation for so many other games. Speaking of foundations, our Den of Geek article, the one looking back on 40 years, it really emphasizes Space Invaders as a pioneer.
Absolutely. It goes deep into how Space Invaders wasn't just a hit, it changed everything. It set a new standard for arcade games. Introduced things like, well, score chasing, high scores. It even paved the way for the competitive gaming we see today.
It's amazing how one game could shape not just other games, but the whole culture around them. And, it's funny, the GameSpot review of the 2000 re-release touches on this, too.
Oh, yes. They thought the updated graphics and sound were cool, but the game itself, a bit too easy for modern players. They argue that some of the original charm was its difficulty. It made you really master it.
It's a good reminder that sometimes progress isn't just about making things easier. Sometimes it's about keeping that challenge that makes a game truly rewarding. And I think that brings us back to what we were discussing. What can we as gamers learn from Space Invaders?
I think it encourages us to look beyond the flashy stuff, the graphics, the complex stories, and appreciate the core elements that make a game truly great. It reminds us that simple can be powerful, innovation doesn't always mean complexity, and that a well-designed game can last for decades.
It's a great lesson for game developers, any game enthusiasts. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Space Invaders, I want to leave everyone with one final thought. What game from today do you think has that Space Invaders potential? What's pushing boundaries, captivating players, shaping the future?
That's the question to ponder as we continue exploring this ever-evolving world of video games. And who knows, maybe you, the listener, are already playing it.
Thanks for joining us on this epic journey through gaming history.
It's been a pleasure exploring the universe of Space Invaders with you. Until next time, game on!